Hi, I'm Mary Marinville, and it is October. It's beautiful out today, and I'm in lovely Camarillo. And I'm very excited because I am here with Eric Ryder from Ryder Affiliated Companies. Hi, Eric.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good to see you.
Good to see you, and good to meet you finally. You are one busy grower, and I know why, because Ryder Affiliated Companies is the largest grower of berries in the world, correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And you are a grower, and then you sell your berries to Driscoll's, correct? Or
Yeah,
they distribute them?
we sell exclusively to Driscoll's. We do a little bit of process, but that's not our focus. It's all fresh berries, and Driscoll's is our only customer.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about the history of how your family, it's a multi-generational growing family, how it all began?
Yeah, our family goes way back in berries and farming in California. I'm fifth generation, and so I think it was my father's great aunt who found a strawberry variety up in Sweetbriar, and they brought that down to the Watsonville area, and we're growing that in the early 1900s. And then as the university started a breeding program, they became involved in growing those varieties. When the university shut down the program shut down during World War II, Driscoll's, a group of growers, started a genetics company, and that's kind of the foundation of Driscoll's. And so there are 8 different growers, and we were one of them, the Ryder family. And then we've been in it since then. In the mid-'70s, they all branded under one label, which was Driscoll's, and there's been a lot of advancements since then, definitely going to other countries and supplying more markets, but that's kind of the foundation or the history of it.
Wonderful. So from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And your father is Garland Ryder, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
All right. What is your first childhood memory of realizing that you were in this family of berries, and what was your fondest memory growing up?
We would, as kids, we'd come down on Saturdays a lot, and so we were actually growing a little bit in Carpinteria, and we still do, but not too much. And I grew up in Santa Barbara, so we'd go to Carp or down here on Saturdays with my dad, and he'd have us, most of the time we'd screw around, run around, and we had a go-kart or something like that, and but just being out on the ranch and interacting with the people, and a lot of the employees that we still have recall us as when we were little kids, and kind of causing trouble. And then as through junior high and into college, we'd have jobs during the summer, and so trapping gophers or weeding and just doing a lot of different basic work on the ranch, and that was my introduction to it, and kind of that's our grew a fondness for being in ag and being, working outside, working alongside other people.
I like to hear that. So you've worked at every level. Catching gophers is, your father started you out at the bottom, and you've obviously worked your way up. Did you go away to school to learn more about the industry?
I ended up going to USC and studied business, but after graduating, I moved to Mexico. I lived there for a year and grew 8 acres of berries, did 4 acres of strawberries, 4 acres of raspberries. And at that scale, you really, you run a pretty lean group or operation. And so I did a lot of the work myself and kind of learned through that. And then I moved to Santa Maria and grew 60 acres of straws there. So that was more like, you got crews and, more managing, people were managing groups of people. And that was kind of a progression. But really, look back a lot on the days when, I was doing a lot of the work myself. And I think that draws on your ability to kind of, it gives you a little bit of clout and that you did the work. And then also, when you're talking to people, you know what they're saying, and if they're telling the truth or not. It gives you a lot of experience.
Interesting. And I totally agree with you. It's sometimes the smaller growers, and I'm so happy to hear you say that, because you have to wear many hats. You have to do everything. You have to be the businessman, you have to be the soil, conservationist and the soil scientist, and you have to learn about the industry as a whole. And so I'm glad to hear you say that. So you've worked at every different level. So here we are, it's 2016. You've been in the industry since you were a young man. What are you most proud of now? What's happening at Ryder now?
It's a lot going on. At Ryder as a whole, there's a lot going on with, in Mexico and other areas. I work in California here, specifically Ventura County, and we're faced with a lot of challenges with minimum wage going up. We now have overtime coming our way, and so our focus is really all around how are we going to offset these cost increases, because you can't just expect all the cost increases to be passed directly to the consumer and price to go up. We've got to find ways to be more efficient, and so that we've actually, it's funny what you're saying with the grower wearing many hats. We're actually working on with our structure, trying to divide out the responsibilities. So traditionally in berries, the way we've managed it, it's been there's a ranch manager who is in charge of everything, and we've divided that out. Now we have a growing team, a harvest team, and a cultural practice team, which is a lot more similar to vegetables, and it's due to the added complexity that's come with operating in California. Labor law compliance, food safety, dealing with, it's been, the labor market's a lot tighter, and it's a lot, there's an added need to really connect with the workforce and create a place that people feel, where they're great, you're grateful for their work and a respectful work environment. And so it's tough for one ranch manager to grow a great plant, treat his people perfectly, deal with all the labor law compliances. So we've been doing that, and we're seeing the benefits of it, that structural change. But yeah, it's all trying to get ahead of all the changes that are coming our way. That's our biggest focus.
Right now you have a program in place that I'm learning about. You just did a 5K, I think, in that program. Can you tell me a little bit about that program and how and the benefits of it?
Yeah, so we have Sembrando Salud, and then there's also Pasos Saludables. But Sembrando Salud is really about health and happiness with our workforce, and so we're trying to teach people tools for living a healthier lifestyle, and also, and that will includes both nutrition and exercise, and then also there's a component of just happiness and needing to be happy in your life, and because it's
all connected, isn't it? The health, nutrition, happiness, the lifestyle, it is all connected.
Exactly, and our focus is really on the field employees. We definitely work with the office and admin support, but the majority of our workforce is our harvesters and field workers, and so the program works where it's a 10-week program where we have a promotora that goes out and works with the crews, and it has basic training program about living a healthier lifestyle. And so one of the events that we put on was a 5K event, Sembrando Salud sponsored.
I heard 400 people came out.
Yeah, there were a lot of people.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was cool. And we put on a lot of events, and we do employee resource fair. We have different barbecues. We really try and give back. But I haven't seen an event where people were really so happy, and it wasn't that there was a raffle with a bunch of prizes, or it was more that I think people really challenged themselves, and a lot of people had never done a 5K, and I think they weren't sure how it was going to go, and watching people cross the finish line with these big smiles I think it was rewarding to them, as well as everyone who was able to attend and watch.
I bet everybody got a little competitive. I know when I do a 5K, I get competitive, and so I can imagine that your workforce, they were getting a little competitive with each other, which is always great, and it's also very healthy as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that, and I can tell by your voice and the passion that it is important to you to give back. So I'm very happy to hear that. So back to the growing and back to where we are standing. We are in the middle of thousands of blueberry bushes. So can you tell me about this variety and also tell me about some of the other varieties that you grow? I didn't realize that Ryder grew so many blueberries in Ventura County. I thought this was a cold weather crop. So tell me a little bit about where we are.
Yeah, so we're on the Guadalasca Ranch, which is the Brooms Ranch here in, I guess it's Camarillo. We're just debating that. So these are all blueberries that are planted in what we call substrate, but it's planted in a pot that has a media, which is this right here is a mixture of peat, perlite, and cocoa. And it's about 30, it's a 30-liter pot that the root, we found that especially with blueberries, it's an improved environment for the root zone. And so because of that, we get faster response with growth. And, you know, normally with the blueberry, it takes a while for many years for the plant to mature. So your yield, progressively gets larger and larger. But with the substrate, we've been able to offset that kind of lag period for improved yield. And we're seeing much higher production in the earlier years of the plant's life. And
and this is called Snow Runner?
Snow Chaser.
Snow Chaser.
Yeah,
okay.
So this is a public variety, and there's a fair amount of it in the county. We grow public varieties and also Driscoll's proprietary varieties with the in blueberries, where as opposed to really all strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries, we grow only Driscoll's genetics. So yeah, and they were a little late to the game on the blueberry deal, and actually are coming out with some really good varieties now. But we go after this one because it's early. So I think our biggest issue by far in Ventura County is labor. We don't have enough people to harvest the crop during certain times of year. So what we're doing here is really trying to put production in a time period where we don't have a lot of other production from our other crops.
Very smart.
So this is hitting more February, March, April time window, and then our raspberries ramp up more April, May. And so that way we can move people. I mean, really it benefits us from having a flatter curve for many reasons, because one, it's just easier to manage that workforce. You don't have these big spikes, but it also allows us to increase people's earnings, annual earnings, because we can employ them from a longer period of time. So yeah, it's been a kind of a new endeavor for us. Our biggest thing by far is raspberries in Oxnard, and then strawberries, and then blueberries. We've started to plant some more acres.
And we were talking a little bit earlier about the trends in berries, and you're seeing an increase in consumer demand for blueberries.
Yeah.
Is that because as consumers, and the more we educate ourselves about nutrition, berries are a superfood? I mean, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, I know I try to eat them every day in my smoothies. I'm one of your customer.
Good to hear. Yeah.
So is that the trend? As we learn more about nutrition, we want to eat more berries?
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, berries have enjoyed an amazing growth, like the whole category in general. And I think a lot of it stems from health. And so blueberries, I mean, personally, I love blueberries too. They're really easy to eat. You get a basket of them and you just pop them. Strawberries, you got the calyx, and the blueberries tend to be a little bit more durable too. They're longer shelf life. So from a market perspective, blueberries are it's amazing, the growth. And so, I mean, I don't know, but some people have projected that blues will surpass strawberries in total revenue sales. Now, the tonnage for sure, it'll never pass it. Strawberries are just a bigger fruit, but
right.
But no, the growth's impressive, and so you see more of it in the county for sure.
And I want you to know that I am from upstate New York, where we have wild blueberries that I would go and pick as a kid on our farm and pop them in my mouth, and they were delicious. And you're getting better. Whatever you're doing it well, because when I eat Driscoll's berries, your blueberries, they're tasting better and better and better. So you're getting better.
Yeah, we're trying to do that. Yeah. It's growing practices. Genetics is the foundation of a lot of it. So I mean, you got to start with good genetics, and then the growing techniques. And we're definitely doing things to try and improve the consistency of fruit quality, being both shelf life and flavor. So.
And how is the water situation affecting Ryder? Is it
We're
affecting you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's affecting everyone. We're just doing our budgets for next year, and I mean, the increase in water costs is significant from what we've seen in the past couple of years, and we're in a drought, so it makes sense. There's less water; it's going to be more expensive. We're working with there's some different groups here in Ventura County trying to come up with allocation policies for water. Both with the cities and with ag and because we're all going to get cut. And so it's just how do you do it in a way that's equitable. I don't think the word fairness is hard to apply to a lot of this stuff because it's not going to be exactly fair for everyone. But as long as you can make it where everyone's taking somewhat of the same cut, it's going to work out.
When you're talking about different, are you talking about the row crop growers and the veggies, or are you talking about when you say fair?
Well, I mean, really, not to get too into it, but I mean, first you got to decide how you're going to divide up water with ag and M&I, and then once you have which municipalities and industrial, so like the cities and the industrial companies here in town, and then you have your pool for ag, and then how do you divide that up amongst all your different landowners is not easy because some people have higher historical usage than others. So, and there's people on all different camps in terms of how you do that, and it's everyone's livelihood, and there's water is attached to value of land. Without much water, your land is a lot less valuable. So
I think the regulators need to be kinder to our growers and agriculturalists because everyone wants to eat, and every time I talk to a grower, it really pains me to hear that you're just getting more and more regulations. And I understand why, but at the same time, they should let you do what you're good at, and that's grow quality berries, and hopefully at a low cost, so you can pass that value on to your customers as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's way more challenging. I mean, water is just one of the areas, but a lot of the California labor law compliances and just operating in California is pushing a lot of people out of California. So, I mean, the weather here is incredible. So, I mean, we're here.
Feels incredible.
Yeah, we're here for a reason. It's we just got to learn to live within all these new regulations, and yeah, it would be a lot easier if there were a little bit less, but we're doing our best to get by.
So a few more questions. When we're talking about water, is this a more efficient way to grow berries in the substrate and in the cocoa fiber recipe that you talked about?
It really is, actually, and this is a great example for it. So what the plants are on right here, the pots are on top of, this was a bed that had blueberries in it. And we ripped the plants out and then put pots on top. If you look at the volume of soil there, it's way larger, right, than the pot. So we used to work on, putting good moisture, humidity within that whole bed. Now we're focused on just the pot. So we actually, blueberries, we've seen almost a 50% reduction, but I mean, it depends on the grower and who. But there's
50%. That's great.
Yeah. So, but there's other crops aren't. Blueberries we've seen the largest. Raspberries aren't quite as big, and some. So, but we're learning, and I mean we have to use all of our resources more efficiently, and water is top of the list, and we just don't have enough water right now in our aquifer to sustain all the farming here, and so this is a great alternative. Yeah, it's way more expensive from a capital investment standpoint, but you do get that higher yield, which helps offset that.
Right, wonderful. Now, as far as technology in the berry industry, I've heard some interesting ideas and ag practices that Ryder's going to start using. Are you going to be using more cocoa fiber?
We are using more cocoa fiber, and we're more peat. We're doing this in both raspberries, a little bit in strawberries, kind of new for us, and then definitely in blueberries. So we've worked with vendors. A lot of the cocoa comes out of Sri Lanka, and so different vendors there, and then the cocoa more out of Latvia, and there's some in Canada as well.
What's the advantage of using cocoa fiber? Is it soil retention? Is it?
Berries are kind of late to the game in terms of this type of farming, and tomatoes have been in this for a while, and those are kind of the medias that I think people have learned work the best. And so compared to other sources, I'm not really quite sure. What we see here is that you have a good amount of aeration or oxygen in the soil, as well as you also have, it can retain moisture. You want to be able to retain moisture, but also be able to dry the pot down when needed, because just due to, especially when we're in flower stages for the raspberries, if you have really wet media, we actually will see issues with the pollination of the fruit, and then we'll get more deformed fruit. So we need something that can hold moisture, can also draw down or drop down, and then also that has a good amount of air, oxygen in it.
So we'll be seeing Ryder using more cocoa fiber for all these reasons.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing it here, Watsonville, Baja, Central Mexico. There's a big push on this. It's just more, if you think about it, it's a large capital investment from the beginning, but then we're not going to come back in, like if these were raspberry pots, we wouldn't come back in, rework the ground, put in new tunnels, do all the things that we normally would have to do after the life cycle of each planting.
Right.
So
it amortizes out over a longer period of time,
Exactly.
and then the value increases. So what does the future look like for Ryder? What's happening in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, we're very focused on sustaining our California business. That we, you could just go to Mexico and put all your eggs in one basket, but it's I think there's a lot of risk in that, and so we're continuing to grow our business there, but we're really trying to sustain our footprint here. We're tied very deeply to the community. We've been here since. My dad moved down here in '78, and we've been up in the Watsonville area forever, and so we have a long history and legacy there, and we want to continue with that. But there's just enormous challenges coming our way, and so we're working to really offset all those increased costs with efficiencies. And so for myself, that's the number one thing. It's focusing our team around finding efficiencies in costs and growing better fruit, and working, partnering with Driscoll's too to find more value for our product. So.
And what can we do as consumers? Can we just buy as many?
Keep buying berries, yeah.
Well, they are delicious. They're healthy. I can't think of another fruit that I like better than raspberries and blueberries. Those are my two favorites. And the kids certainly love them. We teach a lot of kids every year about local agriculture and farming, and their faces don't light up as much with any other fruit than they do when they see strawberries. And I'm being very serious.
Yeah.
And they all want, can I have those? Can I have those? Like, no, we need them for the next class. But so thank you for all that you do. I know from the last few years trying to get in touch with you, you are a busy guy. Our farmers and growers work so hard to put food on the table. And I know it's something that's very important to them. It's a passion of theirs. And is there anything that you would like to say of, one last statement of Ryder and what you're most proud of?
No, I think that, we're most proud of, well, two things really, is the fruit we produce, and high quality fruit, and our people, and really, giving opportunity for people and allowing, we've got a lot of people who have been with us for many years, and we're grateful for them, and we want to continue to provide them an opportunity. So really it's, our local community here, the more that we can support ag, the longer we'll be here and, thriving in this community. So,
So I'm hearing you feel that not only are the berries an asset, but your employees are also an asset to you.
Completely.
And you're trying to do as much as you can to improve the community by help. It's a win-win, isn't it?
It is. I mean, berries are extremely labor intensive, and that we're working on mechanization. That's not going to happen overnight, and so we rely on a lot of people. And so, I mean, we joke around that we're in the people business. It's kind of true. So,
it is true.
It is. So, we got to offer people a good opportunity to, great opportunity not only to earn, but a good work environment where people feel respected and where they're adding value.
I know, I have a saying, we're all hunters and gatherers. We just have other people that are gathering for us now, and they do it with pride and they do it with dignity and they work so hard. And I'm glad to hear you say that you appreciate them. My dad was a dairy farmer, and he worked so hard as well. That's another labor-intensive farming operation. So,
And that was in upstate New York?
Yes.
Where up there?
Hudson Falls,
Okay.
where it's cold 6 months out of the year.
I lived in Rochester, New York for a couple years.
Oh my gosh, I know Rochester. That's smack dab in the middle of this state.
Yeah.
So we'll have to talk more about Rochester and upstate New York. Well, thank you, Eric. It was a pleasure. Yeah. And if you want to know more about Driscoll's and Ryder affiliated companies, please go to their website, and we'll see you next month.